You are listening to the Social Hotelier Show, a podcast that inspires hoteliers to create meaningful and memorable experiences for their customers in pursuit of their passion. We share our views and experiences relating to hospitality, technological trends, and also relating to humanity. Here is your host, Sam-Erik Ruttman.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Social Hotelier podcast with me, Sam-Erik Ruttman. We have another great show today. We will discuss about luxury in the context of luxury design and many other things. And my guest in this episode is Kristoff D'Oria di Cirie. He's the co-founder and chief creative officer with Insogni Studio. So welcome, Kristoff, and thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me, and well done with my name. I know that's not a very easy one. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, it has a melody and flow to it, so it took a little bit of practice, but thank you. I'm glad I got it spot on for you.
No, it's perfect.
So let's get started. First, for our audience to think a little bit about what your background is and experience. Could you tell me about your journey that has led that you finally founded the Insogni Studio?
I was asked this a couple of days ago by someone wanting to get into the industry. And I felt really embarrassed that it's sort of unimpressive and very unintentional. This is all kind of by accident, and I fell into it in a way, which I think is natural because this is still an emergent field and there wasn't really a clear path to get here. I actually studied international economics and I wanted to become a trend analyst. That's what I saw for myself. But I graduated during the financial crisis, so there weren't very many finance jobs going. So I took a part-time job with a graphic design and web studio, and I learned quickly. And then I got an opportunity to work in South Korea. I took opportunities, said yes to everything, even scope creep. And it was in that scope creep, where you just get asked a very simple question: can you do some branding? Now can you do the interior? Now can you do the packaging? Now can you do this? And there was a moment when I realized, hold on, this is all connected. This is all the same thing we're talking about. We're talking about the experience design. We're not siloing them anymore. It's not a burden to kind of think, I've got to put another hat on. I just changed the perspective. And since then, it's really gone strength and strength. So, yeah, and I actually think this is the way a lot of designers need to think about their job. As less specifically specialist and more holistic, especially as we talk about AI coming in, it's going to become more necessary.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you worked in South Korea.
Yeah, and Japan.
I have worked in South Korea also. Now I have to ask you that cultural experience to work there, and how was that? What are the sort of you must have had your antennas out, tried to be very sensitive to soak in, understand the nuances of the culture. Could you just share some experience? How was that?
Well, the work culture was a bit of a shock for me. It's a very intense work culture, very different from the UK. So I learned a lot quickly. But it was great, and I was young, and there were lots of opportunities. I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was looking at things from a different perspective, and not assuming that your preconceived notions of things are the right way. It's such a small difference, but having your expectations and having your ideas challenged every single day really prepares you for this new world that we're entering. So that's the biggest thing I took away.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this is something that whenever you work in a different culture, you come as you'll change, and when you go back to UK, for instance, you see in a very different perspective than how it was when you originally went to South Korea, for instance. Yeah, when you work for because I read about you and the articles you write or the posts in LinkedIn, and that's how I initially connected with you. Can you give a feel of the kind of companies that hire you for some particular assignments? So just give a feel of what kind of industries, or what kind of retailing they involved with, or hospitality for that matter?
So the majority of what I've done has been with consumer goods. So that's cosmetics, that's small personal items, and even small luxury goods. In addition to, bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and some hotels. So that's it's quite a broad church. Like I said, scope creep. Scope creep gives you lots of opportunities to do different things. In the main, a lot of the work that I do is white label. So it's working with, not directly with clients, but with different studios and different agencies, as and when they need different skill sets.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to some particular brands that you are then working with, how do you go about learning that, so you get sort of a really true feel of what they're all about, whether it's the culture, vision, or purpose, because that is something that you must immediately catch on, so you catch the essence and you can do a good job for the client.
Well, do you know what? I think actually studying economics helped me with that a lot, because you always have to look into the data. That's the first thing that you have to do. But I think the biggest influence actually was my experience working in East Asia, Japan and South Korea, because one perspective that I got, especially helping brands position themselves for market entry, is that your brand's idea of itself is not necessarily what different markets want from your brand. So to give an example, an Italian restaurant might have a particular idea of what Italian dining is and the image of itself it wants to present to the world, and that's fine. But also, if you were then putting that in the USA or Japan or wherever, that local market is going to have a preconceived idea of what that is. So you also have to tailor it to the expectations of the people who are going to interact with it. So that's the first thing I actually do. I try and figure out what are we're calling stereotypes, but what are the conventions that people are expecting and how can we try to meet them?
Yeah, but when you take a brand, for instance, that has been around for 100 years, 150 years, you maybe take even one of those luxurious labels out of France or Italy, sure, which are very traditional, and now there's a leap to 2023, if you will. How do you go about kind of helping them out to move into today's world, and also that that it evokes this kind of for the today's customer, that they are feel that this brand is for me, or this product is for me, or this experience is for me?
I think it's about going back to first principles, really. Everything goes back to first principles. So if you strip away all of the gadgets, all of the trends, all of the the top layer, what are you left with? And it always goes back to the question of, what are people supposed to feel when they're interacting with your brand? That's the first question I ask. Everyone likes to get straight to the drawings, everyone likes to get straight to the concept art, but really, when they enter your store, what is the specific feeling that they have? Is it of hope? Is it of aspiration? Is it of comfort? Is it of relaxation? These are the different things we need to ask. And then also you can ask, how do people interact with your brand from an emotional standpoint? Is there a specific time of year that people associate you with? How can you lean into that? What are the feelings around this time of year? Are you a Christmas brand? A lot of perfume brands are specifically, targeted around Christmas giving. So how can you lean into those wider emotions and spread them through the year?
Yeah. I mean, this is actually what you were saying was very interesting, because this is what I'm very interested about, is that the most important thing is how you make the customer feel when
Sure.
they walk into your store or walk into the hotel. And this is in the hotel industry or in hotel space, if you will, there are huge differences when you walk into the hotel lobby, how they make you feel. Whether you are welcoming or you're just a room number. And this was one of the things I'm so passionate about, that the most memorable experiences is that how I was made feel when I arrived to hotel, or even more importantly, when I was leaving.
Yeah.
By the time you're paying the bill, for instance, how are you made feel? This is so. I cannot emphasize more than anything else. This is hugely important, because the fact is that you may just turn around the feel of would you come back to that place again, because
Absolutely.
what happened in the last 10 seconds when you were leaving.
I think if you look at the theatre, it's always the beginning and the end that people remember of a play or a movie or whatever you like. And I think to a certain degree it's the same for a hotel. People might have complaints in the middle of a stay, or certain things that they wish were better. But if you get the introduction and the exit right, people will remember you in a positive way. And just to kind of add on to how people feel, I don't hear it enough how people feel about themselves in an experience. And I know it sounds quite shallow, but this is a desire. This is a desire of our customers, and we need to design around it and fulfill it. So let's say hypothetically, you were visiting France. Let's say you've never visited Europe before. You had saved up a lot of money and you wanted to visit Paris. You have an idea of yourself in Paris, a kind of glamour that you want to be fulfilled. And I don't think enough hotels are taking that into account. When you end up going, it feels like an anywhere place a lot of the time. You're surrounded with other tourists, and I think a lot of people feel a bit disappointed. They're not having this, and I'm just going to call it the Emily in Paris effect. They're not having this glamour, this fantasy, and that's the main reason why they came, really. So that's something I'm thinking about a lot right now.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, this Emily in Paris, because this is really what it's all about. That when she arrives to Paris, I mean, this is a life which is very, very. I think it was very well made series, in fact, and that touches a lot of people's nerves. That's what made it so popular. Yeah. One thing which is quite interesting, that you talk about the Christmas period and the perfume brands and the season for selling perfumes. Of course, many of those brands are online.
Sure.
And then that experience can be a wonderful experience, because you ordered, you paid, you received it very quickly. Sure. But there is always that shipper who is responsible to deliver those goods to you on time. Now, when it happens that, which has happened to someone I know, that the perfume is not arriving, it has not arrived, you call the shipping company and they give you sort of a blank answer, which is not very helpful. Then you contact the friendly customer service person with the brand. They're also very sorry, and they also are investigating, and still nothing happened. Yeah. And then 1 month later, you still haven't received your paid shipment.
That is unusual.
These are very challenging times. How would you advise the most glamorous perfume brand to deal with these things in order to make a sort of a change that, because now you're losing the confidence in the brand?
No, that's a very good question. That is a really good question. I would say I haven't experienced anything like that recently, but I know that it's something that is a concern for people. I think to go back to this, the first thing I could say, especially if you're a perfume brand and you do have a physical outlet or a concession or anything like that, the first thing I would do is apologize, of course, and then invite them to come and collect it from a store. And then they could deal with it another way, and they could recoup from the shipping company or something like this. But even though it's a hassle for your friend, I'm sure that they would prefer to make a trip into Helsinki, be treated very nice. Maybe the people at the store can be aware that they're going to arrive, greet them, apologize, show them round, and then provide them with the product. This can be a great way of recouping that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, this is everyday life in this during the Christmas time because of
Sure.
there's a lot of shipping packages and purchases being made online. So I mean that's a very good answer, and I think that's something that I hope that the perfume brands and those kind of brands who are having a lot of online sales, they have thought about it, and that there is that what I call the damage control is well planned.
I guess in that scenario, there are situations where someone is too remote from any outlet or any retail location. But I think there is a significant chunk where that's still viable, and I would always encourage people to come into store. And part of the work that I'm doing is to create a reason for them to do that. Outside from the convenience, they're coming for a specific reason, not just to pick up an object.
Yeah, very good. I'd like to move over then to the next generation of luxury consumer. I'm very actually interested in your thoughts on this, how hotels can engage with the next generation luxury consumer. And my angle actually for this is that there is has been a trend for a while where glamping or luxury camping has become very popular, particularly in Africa. And in one of my episodes with a developer who is well known for creating these luxury tent camping products, they were very successful in Africa, and now they are realized there's a demand for this in the United States, and now they are able to open up a luxury camping site in, I think it's in Utah, and Amman runs it.
Oh, beautiful!
The average daily rate is.
I've seen the project. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's the average daily rate is between $4,000 to $5,000 US. That's an experience. So it's a luxury experience, very detailed, very thought of, and they are operating with a 90% occupancy. So it's clearly a very successful operation. So my question is that, and this was actually not. This was mentioned by the person I had a discussion with. Luca Franco, who is in one of my episodes, the founder of Luxury Frontiers, that people are not anymore, or lesser degree, they're collecting things, but what they are doing, they're collecting experiences, and they're willing to pay for that experience, whatever it is, because it's something that will stay with them for a long time. So my question is that how does this relate to maybe the next generation? Is that something that you see is a... could you speak about what your perception of this thought is?
So the first thing that comes to my mind is the infamous quote by Klaus Schwab, "You will own nothing and be happy." It got kind of a bad rap. It was put in a sort of ominous light, but I don't think it's ominous at all. I think it's actually very sensible. I think there is both a cultural, economic, and environmental reason for minimizing the consumerism that has, for me, has gone a little bit overboard now. It's happening anyway. From an environmental point of view, it's just not tenable to have 20 pairs of shoes, or to have 15 different coats, or change out your living room design every year. It's just not viable. I think as well, I've got a niece, she's 7 years old now. She's much more interested in her Roblox skins than she is in her shoes or the clothes that she wears. And I know that's just one anecdote, but I do think it's a taste of the future. I do genuinely believe that, that of course people are going to want things, of course they are, but I think those things are going to be much more specific, much higher quality, and just more meaningful, really. And everything else is experience. Because if you think, why do we buy something? We buy something because we want to feel something. Yeah, sure, there are people who are genuine collectors and collect things for the pleasure of it, and that's never going to go away. But a lot of the times, let's say a female consumer wants to buy a handbag. An aspirational luxury consumer wants to buy a handbag. Why is she buying that handbag? She might buy that handbag because she got a promotion at work, and she wants to treat herself. Now, why is she doing that? She's doing it because she wants to feel something. She wants to feel proud of herself. She wants to have a sense of accomplishment and self-actualization. And you can get this same feeling without having the object. So I think it's cutting out the middleman in a way. It's getting straight to the experience without the product.
That's I think very well said. Because I just now looked at the mirror about myself when I graduated from university. When I got my first job, and I had saved up. I bought my first watch, and then when I graduated from university, I bought a watch. And so there has been some kind of very important phases in my life that the watch is. And when I look at it, it brings me the memories of the